welcome to All Things Iceland. It's Jules, and I'm so excited to be on the Westman Islands, specifically Heimaey, which is the main island in the Westman Islands. I partnered with Cuckoo Campers, spent a couple of days here, so I'll be taking you around, showing you parts of the island and some exciting things to do. So I hope you enjoy, and definitely let me know in the comments which are the things that you liked best in the video, as well as if you want to come to the Westman Islands. To start off though, here is my humble abode, which is the AA camper van. So underneath is storage for like your bags, and of course the bed, which is good enough for 2 full-size adults, maybe 3 very small people. And then there is the front, and in the back you have places for like dishes and food storage. This is what it looks like with just me in the van, so just FYI. To get to the Westman Islands, you have to take a ferry, which I love doing. The A camper I thought was a great size for this because it's the width of a regular size car, and as you can see, it is quite narrow getting into the ferry on the side with the regular cars. And then cost wise, it's not as much if you have a smaller car. I love taking the ferry because look at this view of the mainland of Iceland as we're riding towards the Westman Islands. But you also will see other islands that are part of Westman Islands. So Heimaey is the main island that's inhabited, but there are 15 surrounding islands where no one lives, but there are like hunting cabins on them. And I highly recommend, if you are able to, stand outside while you're approaching Heimaey and like the other islands, because it's so gorgeous. The views, especially on a clear day like we had, is just mesmerizing. And there you can see one of those hunting houses I was talking about. It is absolutely amazing just riding in and seeing all the lava that is there from the eruption in 1973, which I will go into a little bit later in this video. And here, of course, is the harbor that was saved from being closed off after the eruption. According to the Westman Islands website, there are 4,300 people approximately that live on Heimaey. And as you can see, like, I'm up on a hill looking over the town, and that's because this is lava that was created by the eruption of Eldfell. And that mountain, that volcano really, which I'm showing right now, is absolutely gorgeous, and you can hike up to that. So that's one really fun activity that I highly recommend doing when you come to the Westman Islands, just because you get a different view, but also look at this, the colors are so amazing. And what's amazing too is that you can see all the different types of landscape that have come about because of this eruption. And there's actually a museum here that I went to that I'll show you kind of about the destruction of it. But at the same time, along with the destruction came some opportunities that allowed for the island to have different resources. So this is really fascinating just in general, just to even drive around Heimaey, because in summertime, especially, you have like the lupine. This was in June that were blossoming and just making the landscape so beautiful. This is the museum Eldheimar, which I had alluded to earlier, and I absolutely love this museum because it's just a unique experience to go in here and get a perspective about the destruction that happened from the 1973 volcano. So you get a headset and a audio guide in the language that you need, and then you get a chance to just go and explore. So for me, it was hauntingly beautiful to see inside of a house that had been dug up after everything had stopped regarding the eruption, and you can actually see that people had literally in the middle of the night had to get up, leave everything, and and leave the island. So everyone had to evacuate for their lives because no one knew how much destruction the eruption would have. I mean, there were plenty of houses and buildings, streets, everything that ended up being covered by the new lava. And there, of course, were houses that were left, but just to be safe, everyone had to be evacuated. And here you can see that there are cameras in which you can look inside and find old brushes and things. And I just thought this is such an amazing way of allowing people to see and understand just how intense it was for people back then. What's even more astonishing is that what the Westman Islands, or what Heimaey, I should say, looked like before the eruption. It was pretty flat. And now, of course, there are hills, and then there's this volcano and things of that nature. So just walking through the museum, you'll learn a variety of things. And upstairs, they also have an exhibit. So you can see, of course, the house from above, but they also have an exhibit about Surtsey, which is a fairly recent volcanic eruption in Iceland, and just learning more about things that are happening around the Westman Islands. And as you ride around town, of course, you get more beautiful views, and the fact that even though it's quite small, it packs a lot of things in. For dinner, I decided to eat at Tanginn, which they had a delicious vegan option I highly recommend. And of course, they have non-vegan options too. Regarding where I stayed for the night, the campsite on Heimaey is quite nice. So you can see there's these little huts there that people can rent out if they want, or you of course can sleep in your camper van. And this area is where they have Þjóðhátíð, which is this annual festival. It's a huge festival that happens. People from around the country and even outside of the country come to listen to music. And this is the main building of the campsite. So you go there to like cook food if you need to. Here's the kitchen where you can, everyone uses it communally. And I quite enjoyed the camping facilities. Inside of the van, even in summer, so this was June, like I'd mentioned, it can get a little bit cold. So there's a heater. Definitely used that, and I highly recommend getting a camper van that does have a heater, because you'll find that Icelandic summer nights can be a little chilly, and it is nice to have this option. The next day was quite rainy, but such is life. It is Iceland. But we were really fortunate to connect with Viking Tours, specifically one of the owners, Gunnar, who's here telling us hilarious stories and giving really great insight into the Westman Islands and the culture, the people. We started off feeding the ducks and just like having a great time. And I think having locals like him, specifically islands like the Westman Islands, is so important, because you really can't get these stories anywhere else. Like, these are people who were born here, who know about, for instance, he was talking about Þjóðhátíð and how they get their tents, things of that nature. Like, it was such fun and also so interesting. Along with getting local knowledge and insight that you can't get anywhere else, he also took us to the Puffin cabin, which anybody can get to. And normally there's a ton of Puffins out there. I feel like they were a little bit shy, or maybe they were out to sea getting food. But it was so much fun too to see him interacting with the sheep. He always brings bread for them, and they are stoked about it, as you can see, just like gathering around. And it was just really sweet to see this interaction and how much people really value like the different lives that are on the island. And I found it so fascinating. He was talking about the boats, and these are the boats that Icelanders used to use, their ancestors, for fishing out in open sea. And many of them didn't know how to swim. So it was just so intense. After our time with Gunnar, which I highly recommend checking out, Viking Tours, I wanted to see the Elephant Rock, which if you look closely, you can see an elephant and its trunk. It's just a really cool rock formation that many people like to see. And there's a path along the golf course near the campsite where you can walk and see birds and things of that nature. Afterwards, we went to Gaujalundur, which is a elf garden that a local woman named Goya
created in order for the elves to have a place where they were, revered and also, protected. And it's just really sweet. She is no longer alive, so someone else is taking care of the garden. But I just thought it was really beautiful to walk around and feel that elf magic, if you want to believe in that. If nothing else, is this really sweet place that is nice to walk around and see some of the different things that are growing, and the rocks in the distance that I'm pointing at, those are supposed to be the elf rocks. There are little houses that are there, but I don't believe those are actually supposed to be for the elves. They're more about like for storage of some of the tools. And if you walk up this path, then you can also get a beautiful view of the sea if you keep going up to the top. For dinner, we were pretty tired, so we decided to eat at a place called Einsi Kaldi. We were pretty early, so that's why no one's in there. But that fried cauliflower and vegan burger were delicious, and then we just ended up going back to the campsite.
It's so beautiful today, so lucky. The first day I was here, it was nice weather, kind of windy like today, but then the second day, it was raining a lot, and that's okay. I mean, that's just Icelandic weather, kind of used to it. But what I find really fascinating, especially being here on the Westman Islands, is that you literally get to see how much a volcanic eruption impacted a town. So this building that I'm standing across from, opposite of, it was literally destroyed, but the whole building wasn't completely taken down because the lava stopped at a certain point. And so that to me is like, basically it's like a museum that you're walking into, to a degree, of volcanic eruption and how it can be devastating, but also provide opportunities here on the island. So the foundation for houses, for instance, after the eruption had stopped, they were able to use material from the eruption to build foundation for houses instead of having to import it from the mainland or take from the resources that were already here. The mountains that kind of came out of the eruption as well provides protection from the wind more from the east. And then there's also like harnessing energy from the volcano itself. So in its destruction, it also created opportunities, which is such a cool thing to know and also to be appreciative of. When you think about like how Icelanders are living in a place like this, of course there's like a great respect for nature, but there's also this appreciation for what can come out of the destruction. And that is so fascinating.
This area is called Skansinn, which in Danish means fort. And in essence, in the 1500s, the King of Denmark at the time had instructed that there be a fort in order to defend the harbor and the Danish monopoly trade against British fishing efforts and competitive trade. What I especially enjoyed is the Stave church that is there, or Stavkirkjan, which was a gift from Norway to celebrate Iceland's 1,000-year anniversary of Christianity. And as you can see, I'm walking around the perimeter of the church, and we found out from Gunnar at Viking Tours the reason why this perimeter is there was that nobles were the ones who were allowed in the church, or people who were like higher class, whereas like the people who were of lower class or not so wealthy or well off had to stand around the church for mass. So they couldn't be inside, but they, it was illegal not to go to church, but you could be around it. And so here is what the church looks like on the inside. It's beautiful wooden church and all these different like accents and colors. I highly recommend walking around the perimeter and of course going into the church when you're there, just to kind of see this small little replica of this church that was given to Iceland by the Norwegians. One of the last things I did before leaving Heimaey was going up the rainbow stairs, because you get an opportunity to see some of the monuments there, to some of the buildings that are buried underneath the lava that is there, with the rock now, the stone. And it's just really interesting to walk around there and to check it out. I thoroughly enjoyed Westman Islands, and I hope that you also enjoyed this video. Thank you to Cuckoo Campers for sponsoring. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who you think would find it interesting. Definitely put the Westman Islands on your list of places to visit in Iceland. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.